It's February the 19th. Welcome to everybody. This is a live show, call-in show. You can call in tonight. 709-589-4406. Please keep your calls short if possible. You can call in from anywhere on the planet. If you're in China, we would love to hear from you. Or anybody else affected, or loved ones are affected. And because the call-in show, because we cover so many headlines, it's a lot of presentations to watch. So we cover a lot of topics. And I thought it'd be a good idea if we had a call-in, because most people won't or don't, or just finding me, whatever the case may be, are not aware of the details. 709-589-4403. 709-589-4403. We can keep popping that up on the screen, hopefully. Turn the music down. And music, I know some people don't like music, but majority of the population does. Music lights up 19% of your brain that is never activated only when it hears music. And so music is a wonderful thing. They use it actually for Alzheimer's, dementia patients to help get their brains activated. Once again, call-in number is 709-589-4406. Just to get everybody up to speed. And these shows, aka presentations, are necessary because we don't really have anybody that we can turn to be honest and straightforward. Coronavirus transmission confirmed via aerosols. Now, the World Health Organization has been telling people that if you're 3 or 4 or 5 feet away, 6 feet away, then you don't have much to worry about. But a sneeze will travel at 100 miles per hour up to 200 feet away. So there's been a lot of media claiming that there's no proof that it's airborne, but that's what a sneeze is. It's airborne. 1 in 19 people who might have the coronavirus are being diagnosed in Wuhan, but that would be similar worldwide. The incubation period can last 24 days, not the 14-day quarantine is not enough. That's terrifying that people would be quarantined for almost a whole month. We don't even know, it could be longer than that. We also know that coronavirus 20 times more likely than SARS to bind to the human cells. And we're just in the beginning of this epidemic/pandemic. And a pandemic is when it goes worldwide. Epidemic is for your country. The World Health Organization warns that trolls and conspiracy theories are undermining their non-response to the coronavirus. All he done was gave it a name. And all the media puts them on a pedestal where they regurgitate countries' news. Kind of like what I'm doing, except I'm dissecting it, I'm not. Now, the World Health Organization has also told us that, and it's been repeated many times and attributed to the World Health Organization, that it only lives on surfaces for 30 minutes to 3 hours. But it's up to 9 days. And then we've heard from National Geographic it could live for several months. Let's just say 9 days. It's an incredible disparage from 30 minutes to the 6 hours being quoted by the World Health Organization. which is a umbrella of the United Nations, which somehow or another now supersedes everybody's country and is trying to be the king of the world, basically. The arbiter of laws is what we've discovered them. So if they want to declare people like me a troll, good for them. All our drugs to treat the coronavirus depend on Chinese suppliers. Just going to run some through important headlines. You can call in 709-589-4406 if you got input. If you want to debate or fight, or you want to call me names, or you want to have a conversation, or you want to ask questions or documentation. Scheibman disinfects an entire city. So when you're trying to disinfect an entire city, and you're using, they're not really becoming forthcoming with what they're using. Is that emblematic of any flu or influenza in our history? We don't have anything compares to this. This is a totally new territory. So therefore, Colin's show, well, it might not succeed tonight. Over time, we'll keep pushing it, and hopefully we can help people. Senator Tom Cotton is being attacked for suggesting this was a weapon-made virus, which wouldn't surprise anybody. Why would that surprise anybody? But then all the media that is attacking him is notorious political lapdogs. Without evidence, even though he's providing some evidence, Tom Cotton suggests that the coronavirus is a Chinese biological warfare. It could be from any country. U.S. Senator keeps, because that's what they do, they take flus and pandemics or bird flus or whatever, and they mess with it in these very classified laboratories, and they weaponize it, and then try to come up with vaccines in case, because they assume other countries are going to do that. So it's stupid to rule it out. It's truly stupid to rule it out. And media, of course, doesn't exist, or public relation firms regurgitating coronavirus conspiracy theories. There's no one can prove that it's not. We don't even have a vaccine for it. We don't even know much about it. Therefore, it's absurd to rule it out and pretend that they do. Don't listen. Think about the connotations of the way they're trying to have a conversation. Don't listen to Tom Cotton. Instead of coming up with evidence to support their assertions, what they're trying to do is get you to attack him. Coronavirus, and this is just some headlines to get you up to speed over the last few weeks. Fear wipes out almost £500 billion. So we don't get any phone calls. We're going to jump into the comments section and see if there's any questions there. And we'll get better at this over time. That's the phone number to call in, 709-589-4406. And if you don't want to call in, you can text me, and I'll read out your text, and we'll have a conversation. Edible vaccine inventors joke about culling the population, and these are the people making vaccines want to cull the population. Here's a professor saying calls for killing 90% of the world's population with Ebola. That's a terrible way to die. 88 more coronavirus cases an hour into today's news. And let's just have a quick look at the comment section, see if I can, anything that anybody might have a question there. There's no guarantee I'll see the question because I scan, and just bear with me for a moment while we have a quick look. Because we'll take comment sections from anywhere. Hi to everybody. I'm Millie, Andrew, Dead Tide, Swanee, Panzer, Fragrance, Douglas, Pedro, L3YT. Hi everybody. Hi, Room Figure. Thank you. Wolf. Annie. Thank you. Posting. The number is posted in the comments section. Thank you, Annie. I'm just going to have a quick. We're looking for any questions. Phila. Hi there, everybody. Daniel. Hi, Daniel. Jay. Yeah, we're trying to resolve the audio equipment in the near future. We raised another 60 towards that in the last number of days. It's expensive, right? The equipment is very expensive that I'm using. I'm not going to say how expensive, but if you look up TriCasters and NewTek, you'll get an idea. And all of my equipment is from similar companies. It's all meant to work together. We actually have a Skype machine. We got Stephen from Nevada. Hi, Stephen.
Hey, Dana.
You're live.
I'd start calling.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. We'll keep them 3 or 4 minute calls. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just was going to comment that I think the best thing that everybody can do right now is build up their immune system. And
Yep.
I'll just give you an example of things I'm taking. One of the cheap things you can take that's really good for you is vitamin C. Get 500, 1,000 milligram tablets for like $12, and you take anywhere from 4,000 or more milligrams a day will really help build up your immune system. And like K2, calcium iodine, what's called chloridal silver or silver chloride, both.
Yep.
All those will really help build up your immune system and potentially help protect you from this coronavirus.
Great. That's a great point, Steve. Thank you. And basically, folks, if you start eating healthy, if you think this is going to start affecting you, it's okay to change your diet. It's important that if you got a bad diet, it's never too late to change it. And Steve's got some great ideas there. That's especially, most of this is available at your local stores, and it's cheap, and it's not going to hurt you. It's absolutely going to do good things for you. Anything else you want to throw out there, Stephen?
I was just going to comment that you're bringing up the diet thing too is really important. I really, watch what my diet is lately too. That's important for your immune system too. So that was a good thing you brought up.
Okay, my friend.
But other than that, I just thought I'd start things off and throw that out there because I think right now the best thing everybody can do is build up their immune system as best they can.
Great. Yeah. Right, you are? Okay. We'll let you go, Stephen. Thanks for the call, my friend. God bless.
Statement. Let everybody know Dana's definitely a music lover and a guitar player.
Yeah, I'll start bringing him back. I used to bring him into the shows. God bless, my friend. Thank you. Bye-bye. And you can text into the show 709 589 4406. And if you scroll through the comments section, you might find it there. We had a comment asking, can this end up airborne around the planet? I don't know the answer to that 100%. We do know that when it's on a surface, it can replicate. With the right conditions, it can start replicating and spreading on that surface. We know that it can live at least 9 days. And if it can live for 2 months and people are coughing, theoretically, if you had 1 billion people coughing, there is a possibility this can spread very long distances. because it is airborne, and it is able to live in certain conditions. And those types of details are changing. Nobody really knows specifically how long this could last. Now, I don't know if it can live in the air for 9 days, but we know we can live on the surface for 9 days. You wouldn't want to rule it out. Charles has asked me, have I seen reports from other sites? Yes, I have. Some of those sites are under attack, I noticed. Shrimp Zoo on YouTube is under attack from media in Boston, I believe. And I'm very cautious about trusting anybody. From years of doing this, we see public relation firms take over the narratives with their useful idiots. I'm not saying those people are, but hi to everybody. Let's keep going. If we're let's keep going with the story. We're hoping for any kind of text messaging, call-ins, anything like that. So we got a question I'm going to read out from a text message. What evidence is there that it is airborne? Well, first off, we know a sneeze can travel at 100 miles per hour up to 200 feet. That means it is airborne. We have confirmation that the transmission confirmed via aerosols. And it's not just going to, these aerosols are so small. You think about how dust or pollution from factories in Asia will cross the Pacific Ocean in just 3 or 4 days. They're much bigger, much more heavier than these viruses. And these viruses can attach themselves to the dust and travel long distances throughout the community, even if there's enough of it. Like if you got an extreme event happening where you got thousands or millions of people coughing, and you have the right environment, yeah, this could travel at least distances. We don't know. I don't know. But we do know that large particles will cross the Pacific Ocean, the Pacific corridor, via the jet. Well, you don't need the jet stream for this stuff to cross the ocean, by the way. Let's keep going. But we know a sneeze travels 200 feet, therefore it's airborne. And we do have documentation talking about that. They've been trying to downplay it, saying it only travels 6 feet, but it actually travels at least 200 feet. But in the right conditions, it'll travel even further. It's not just going to die because it's airborne right away. Japan had made a big mistake by leaving people on the ship. In fact, Japan was going to get lease a ferry to quarantine more people on, right, coming into the country. Because they're fixated, because the Olympic Games, they think is going to solve the nuclear meltdowns they have going on there. And so now they got 600 people infected. 500 is off the ship. The media is saying the quarantine is over, but it's not. And so there's your media, you really can't trust them very much. But that's what we're left with. That's all we got to deal with, so we'll talk about it. The virus is far deadlier than normal flu, new figures show, as UK. And if you scale up the current figures, it'll in 1 year it'll be 50,000 dead. But we have documentation from whistleblowers showing 50,000 died about a week and a half ago. And we have evidence showing that all 49 or 50 plus crematoriums are burning bodies up to 100 a day each. And then we have 700 760 million people locked down. 760 million. So we're not able to find out whether any of them are symptomatic of this illness. If they come out of their house, the police will probably beat them up, or their skyscrapers. And then you have the ninnies making sure they don't come outdoors. So we really don't know. And so when you got a skyscraper full of people start getting infected, the entire skyscraper could become sick. Just like the cruise ships are, right? So they're setting a very dangerous precedent. And so we suspect this is going to get big because they're keeping people in a perfect environment for this to spread. Ultimately, they have to come outdoors. You can't keep them indoors forever. The new case brings the total to 542, but that's not the actual real number. It's over 600. Apple sees $43 billion in the market value wiped out. This is their postulating. They're going to lose $43 billion. But they don't know if this is actually going to continue on. They're assuming this is going to plateau and stop. Is there any cases in Northern Ireland? Or Ireland, yeah. I don't know, actually. That's a good question. I thought we did cover a story about Ireland, but we know Ireland, there's a lot of public relation firms with the nuclear industry there. Then they'll switch gears to try to cover this up also. Okay, let's keep reading headlines. Thanks, Millie. Swanee put my numbers there for people. Hi, Douglas. Saper. Hi, everybody. Let's keep going. You can call in at 709-589-4406. That's in the comment section right now. You can also text that number with a question. 1,300 more coronavirus cases among medical workers. Now, there were 1,700 reported. We reported on last week, which means we're looking at 3,000 workers. Over 6 had died. We have reports from 2 doctors dropping dead, but we also have 2 confirmations of doctors that have died. And so this is not like your flu. Flu doesn't kill doctors and healthcare workers. February 11th, there was more than 3,000 cases among medical workers, 1,716 of whom had tested positive. So let's revise the numbers. You're looking at almost 4,500 workers that are assumed to be infected, but you have around 3,000 confirmed. Crazy. So this is not your typical influenza. Scientists claim coronavirus was brought to Earth by a meteorite that hit China. I got a call from Nova Scotia. I actually definitely hung up on you. I'll call you back. My apologies. Touches buttons today. Hi there, it's Dana. Do you want to go on the air? Okay.
I was
Go ahead.
catching up on a few odds and ends today.
Okay.
I noticed an interview that Chinese got back from quarantine. She also went her quarantine. She was telling another kind of strange that all of us one.
Wow.
Yeah, at a home in Wahoo Health, and there
that Li Wushan,
Right?
actually treated vector of the objects that were made because his eyes were actually swelling, the eyeballs. And so the doctor that he went to see happened to be that optometrist that turned out to be the whistleblower.
Wow.
So now they figure they had the number one patient. And they are all pointing their finger to the Biohad lab. It didn't come from the market. The locals are not saying it came from the market. So
Right, and so there's a lot of variations of that out there, right? And so the only way they can make a proper vaccine is they need to get the original host, which was the animal, unless this was a biological weapon, right?
yeah.
And there's no way anybody can say whether it is or it isn't, but we can't rule it out, obviously. Because it does have the characteristics you would want in a biological weapon, where it's able to target. And look at the fear that is invoked, where you got 760 million, 1/10 of the population of the planet locked down. This is not what you do
It's
for
not normal.
This is not what you do for a flu, right? Go ahead.
That's right. And the ship, with the lockdown passengers, there was a short phone call today from a guy who said he looked out his door and they're putting plastic over the vents inside of the ship now.
Oh yeah, the ship is contaminated.
It's spread it, and it's going through the air, so that means there's a lot of scenarios that could play out. This is pretty dirty.
Right, that's right. And everybody could be infected, and it could be 24 days before that manifests in people, because it has a latency, right? And they're only quarantining people for 2 weeks instead of 3.5. And so, go ahead.
Look how fast the Spanish flu got out of Benning, Georgia. It got out of of that camp in Benning, Georgia, faster than they had ever seen, and we had no airplanes then.
Right. Yeah. No, I remember reading up on this a little while ago, a few days back. I was shocked. It circled the planet like 4 different times, and there was no. There was no.
The second strain came in, and they couldn't figure out how these little towns all around North America were getting this flu. It was coming in with the mailman.
Yeah, wow.
They finally figured that out.
Way too late, unfortunately, right? Okay, my friend.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to throw out there?
Thanks for your show, man.
You're welcome. Yeah. Thanks for calling in. Okay.
Okay, bud.
Okay, yeah. Bye bye. Yeah. My apologies. I had the phone backwards for the speaker. It won't happen again. Scientists claim coronavirus was brought to Earth by a meteorite that hit China. And it could happen, apparently. In their opinion, it was more likely to have started in a laboratory, China says. China. Chinese scientists have said that despite reports the coronavirus originated from bats or other animals sold at a seafood wholesale market in Wuhan, China. I got a text coming in there. In their opinion, it was more likely to have started in a laboratory rather than the market. And so when you call in or you're texting, there's a 30-second delay on your end before it shows up. I got another text message asking, do you think China vaccinated for the SARS and then the coronavirus was released? The vaccination for SARS on animals did fine until the animals were subjected a coronavirus, and then they had a very adverse reaction. We do know that there is evidence showing that, thank you by the way, there is evidence showing that people, the second, because you get infected twice, first time might be mild, but the second time your body has already attacked it, right? It recognizes it and it goes into overdrive. This causes people apparently to drop dead or to have heart attacks and strokes, and it also causes kidney failure. This is studies we're talking about, right? We've been covering this for a long time. But to answer the question, I can't rule out anything. In my opinion, I think it's not 100%, but there's a real strong possibility this is a biological weapon. And so if you wanted to attack a country, and one of the reasons I say that is because the biological level 4 laboratory, which is the most extreme, that handles stuff like this, is only 300 meters away from the alleged ground zero. But once again, we don't know, and we're not going to rule anything out, right? And so it could very well, what the text message is suggesting could very well be so. I don't know. I don't want to put my personal opinion there on that one, because I don't know. And so it's best to say I don't know rather than conjectures or opinions on something like that. So here's China saying, in their opinion, it was more likely to have started in a laboratory rather than the market. And this would, you can quantify that, because why would you lock down 760 million people? Why would country after country after country after country, as we covered, panic to the extreme if somebody shows up in a country that is emblematic of those illnesses? Why would you see these are extremities, what we're seeing, the reactions? We're seeing people get arrested for reposting on Facebook mainstream media's conjectures. And then instead of arresting mainstream media for putting it out in the first place, they arrest the people that reposted. And some of those headlines are coming up if we get to them tonight. So China suggests that it did start in a laboratory, and which would explain why you would see this disproportionate reaction to anybody, and to 760 million people locked down, 1/10 of the population of the entire planet. There is no precedence for stuff like this, so we're not going to rule it out. In this opinion, it was more likely to have started in a laboratory rather than the market. However, a scientist from Buckingham Center for Astrobiology, professor, I'm not going to try to mongrel their names, believes that the coronavirus actually originated in a completely different place, space. And we know, like, mushroom spores will come from space. Quote me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong, but I remember reading about that years ago. Mushrooms is one of the few space travelers we have on the planet, those type of spores. However, scientists from Buckingham, coronavirus is slamming the U.S. travel industry, with experts predicting it'll wipe out $10 billion in spending from Chinese visitors. But they're basing that on 4 years. So they're kind of assuming this could last for 4 years. We won't have to worry about tourists in 4 years' time if this lasts 4 years. Once again, you can call in or you can text message me at 709-589-4406. 709-589-4406. We're probably going to keep doing this in these shows because I think people need to have a voice themselves. Hi, everybody. Let me just double check comments section before we move on. If I can. Well, theoretically, yep. That and Random says the same author of the last story about coming from space claimed that's where the Spanish flu came from. But China is saying they think it's a weaponized strain, and that's just yesterday's article, right? And it can be caught over and over. That's right. Thanks, Swanee. If they give an immunization, then if you're exposed to the virus, wouldn't you drop dead? I don't know. Right, and so Agenda 21 this would fit right in with Agenda 21, where they want to decrease the population of the planet. Whereas Fukushima nuclear meltdown, it doesn't, because you're taking out all the species at the same time. Whereas, as far as we can tell right now, this is basically has the ability to attack the humans, not the animals. And because Fukushima radiation and nuclear meltdowns, catastrophic nuclear meltdowns ongoing, has killed the Pacific, as my marine expeditions have shown. And anybody's not familiar with that, we'll just jump on that for 1 second. Fukushima nuclear meltdown. We got another one coming in we're going to read here in a second. I just want people to appreciate some of the other things that I do. So Fukushima nuclear meltdown, this is a model from the Norwegian Institute of Air Research.
Jet streams are also real, and they take 3 days.
Across the ocean. And so that's the radioactive plume crossing from Japan. This is North America. Let me find another model for you. That's the only one I got there for that particular stream. And so I went out on, because we know this crosses the ocean right away within a few days. The marine life is the most vulnerable. So I went out on the ocean with these Zodiacs and sailboat. That's the 3 boats. And, hello? We got too much going on at one time here? What's going on here? Somehow or another you got hung up on. You have to call back. My apologies. The Russians have banned all Chinese visitors. And so I can call that number back if I can find it. Yeah, Russia's banned. Thank you for that text message, by the way. Russia has, that's a good point. I'm going to call back. And so that's another text message, I think. Hey, Dana, just saw a video from a Chinese citizen apparently showing authorities burning homes of victims with the people inside. I can send you the link if you wish. Just saw a video from a Chinese citizen. Yeah, I've seen some of those videos showing up. Let's keep going here. I'm going to call back that other caller. Just say from the other side of the planet. Hi, it's Dana calling you back. My apologies. I accidentally hung up on you. Yeah, good. That's. Did you want to go live? I am so. That's right. Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
No worries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Australia.
Okay. Go ahead.
Just love your show, man. Thanks for all your good information.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've had some pretty extreme fires down here, mate. I think it's all connected to the nuclear fallout.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm an electrical technician. I've had some dramas with the toroidal vortex coils. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
I missed what you said. Say it again.
These vortex coils, I think that they might help with the nuclear fallout in the ocean.
Okay.
Yeah, if you made them with gold.
You know, Australia, like after Chernobyl had happened, one of the things that happened was the bacteria in the forest of Chernobyl, in particular, the bacteria disappeared, so plants and trees and foliage and everything didn't break down. And so when you have fires there, they're vicious. And they also reliberate incredible amounts of radioactivity back into the environment. And so Australia, we know, got hit pretty heavy. And you would see similar things happening there in the hush. It's just heartbreaking what has happened in Australia. Yeah, go ahead.
It's an absolute catastrophe, that's for sure. Our fishing industry, we live on the east coast. The tuna are all sick, emaciated, like you're saying. The whales, we were back up to 35,000 whales like 6 years ago, and last year we only saw 3,500 whales.
Wow.
You know, it's declining rapidly, and the fisheries, they're covering it all up. You can imagine.
Yeah, no, I covered that extensively, right? The whale die-offs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've covered that
it's
extensive,
tragic.
as you know, right?
Yeah, we find whale bones, and like we had one wash up about 10 kilometres away last year at Christmas time. Yeah, it's just too frequent.
Okay, was there anything else you want to throw out there?
No, thanks for your good work, mate.
Thank you, my friend. God bless you. And
Good on ya.
good luck with it all. Call in again sometime, okay?
Yeah, see you, man.
Okay, my friend. God bless. Take care.
You too.
And so Australia has mass die-offs. I'll just finish that out. So I also do other things. I do marine expeditions. And it's not all, it's usually, because it's tropical rainforest up in the west coast. And then the equipment that I use is extremely sophisticated equipment. And we've gone through extremes. In fact, I've done this is all the way from British Columbia, Vancouver, Canada, all the way to Alaska, many times doing species counts. And you can fill the beach up with people, but you're not going to find the species that are missing. See the species to the left? They're all gone because of Japan's nuclear meltdown. And so I cover these extreme events, and we have to go into great detail with an incredible amount of documentation and research. So it's not all fun and games. I actually washed up on the rocks that night in a hurricane. I was in a place where I couldn't get the VHF to pick up the weather. But when I went out there, what I discovered was all the species were missing. This was directly because of the nuclear meltdowns. I've spent 4 to 5 to 6 months at a time doing the research on the ocean. And so I'm used to doing and these species, you'll never take those pictures again. These are all before and after authentic pictures of the same place, by the way. Louise Narles in Haida Gwaii, formerly known as the Queen Charlotte Islands. To give you an example, they showed you over and over and over a fake map of radioactive fallout from NOAA was just a tsunami. But NOAA had put out this actually radiation fallout map. And it didn't show you that one. It kept plugging that one over there. So they'll do the exact same thing with coronavirus because it's the same people. See? Let's jump back over to where we left off. You can call into the show 709-589. Dana, slow it down. 4406. You can text me that number. And you'll probably find it in the comments sections. We'll cover a couple of more stories, then we'll go read through check the comments section again. Struggles to recruit patients for coronavirus drug trials. And so what they're actually doing, though, is they built these prison hospitals. They got bars on the windows of the room. The doors are locked from outside. There's no key for the locks. So once you go in, you never come out, basically. And we got the headlines showing that they're actually doing drug trials at these improvised, I call them torture prison facilities, because that's what they're doing there. And so there was another separate company was trying to recruit patients, but they got 760 million people locked down. That whole province on top of that, the Hubei province, is locked down. Medical reports underscores the limits of screening travelers for coronavirus. So taking people's temperature, you're only going to get about 2%. Findings published in New England Journal of Medicine underscored the limitations of health screening implemented around the world in the hopes of containing the novel virus. Well, even in the epicenter, they're only getting 1 in 19 with screening. See? And discovered the shedding of potentially infectious virus may occur in persons who have no fever, no signs, and only minor signs of infection. But we know that this could be for 24 days before it's manifested or diagnosed. But there's a lot going. Coronavirus spoils Portland's couple trip to run the Tokyo Marathon. I think this is truly egregious that they're complaining. Like, should they just go ahead and have the marathon with so many sick people around them? They didn't close it down on purpose. We covered Japan for many years, the nuclear meltdowns. And the authorities, so-called authorities in Japan, are exceptionally deceitful and dishonest people. And they have barbarized their own country with radiation. They're growing food throughout that prefecture. And so you expect it to mutate in Japan at some point, because there's so much radiation. People are just incredibly full of radiation, and that leaves them susceptible. We got another text message coming in. I think forgot to mention that people are still alive when the homes are lit. Yeah, there's like I can show you erratic drivers that won't not allowed through checkpoints, actually running people over. Just getting out of the car and talking and screaming at them, and they're saying, no, well, we can't let you through, we're not allowed. Get back in the car and actually run them over. There's a video showed up today of people going through tents because they couldn't get through and one guy's actually telling them to go ahead, and he just upset and runs through the tent and runs over a bunch of people. It's not a far stretch to imagine that they would burn down a house with people in it. And we've seen them locking the houses down, so there's no way to get food to them, no way for them to get in or out. Yazzie was talking about the Tesla, the vortex coil theory, link in the chat. I'll have to check that out after. That's for nuclear, right? And unfortunately, nuclear is so now spread throughout the world, as I just showed you earlier with the expeditions. But back to the couple, and we'll come over to the comments section right away. That couple complaining that they can't go run in the Olympics trials with the Olympic participants. Usually like 40,000 people run with people that are planning on being participants, right? Let's keep going. Yeah, they got a lot of bad drivers on top of that in China. But these were angry drivers I was alluding to. Hi, everybody. We got another call coming in from Minnesota. Hi, Minnesota. Good, I'm going to put you on live. Okay.
So, I've been following you since almost the very beginning, Dana.
Okay.
And, great work with Fukushima. I've found it. I've done my own research as well. I've been out to the West Coast and seen that everything's dead, and I bought a Geiger counter and a Geiger counter watch, and everything is all legit. You know, I mean, nobody cares. You tell people, and they just don't care. I just wanted to make a couple points about this coronavirus, because I've been following a bunch of different people that have provided pretty solid information over the year. Have you ever heard of gematria, Dana? Numerology that the global elite uses.
Right, I have, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, well, so there's a tie-in with Kobe Bryant, the basketball player that died.
Sure.
He was buried last Friday, and the city he was buried in is Corona del Alma, California, okay?
Yep.
And then another coincidence, they changed the name of the virus to COVID. When you translate on Google from English to Hebrew, COVID becomes Kobe, okay?
Yeah.
From my research, from what I've seen, and I've looked at Fukushima, and we may disagree because I know you don't think Fukushima was done on purpose, but I'm one of the few people that actually does, and I think it's the same people that did the other 11 incident as well. But
Sure.
they like to mock things.
Yeah, you really can't rule out everything. And so, like, I don't really rule out that it was done on purpose. I just rule out that the earthquake was done on purpose, because you're talking about dropping a 180-mile continental shelf. And so to be able to do something like that would have been you would have created a bigger tidal wave, probably would have been 1,000 feet high, and would have encompassed the entire Pacific Rim nations. Whereas this one was centralized, which was emblematic of the continental shelf dropping naturally, because it does, right? And they're on the Ring of Fire. But like also building the nuclear power plants in China and Japan, where they did, in the most vulnerable places, knowing that an earthquake or something similar could happen, does seem to be on purpose, right? So in one sense, it was on purpose.
You know what? Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. I was just got off the phone with my mom a couple minutes ago because I'm up here in Minneapolis, and we have a nuclear power plant up here. It's called the Monticello nuclear plant. It's basically the same GE Mark II or Mark III. I can't remember which one, but it's basically the same kind of similar design as the one in Fukushima.
Okay.
Anyways, there's a fire burning right now supposedly at a metal recycling place. It's just the next city over. It's in Becker, which is right next to it. And it's been smoking up the air here for like 2 days. And I'm telling my mom, I'm like, why would they build a nuclear power plant? Because we get our wind from the northwest always here in Minnesota.
Okay.
Why would they build a nuclear power plant where if anything did happen, the wind is going to totally annihilate the city, you know?
Yeah, we see them build nuclear plants right in cities all the time. And we know they knew back then that you couldn't contain the releases of radiation. This is why you see 6 times more breast cancer around a nuclear power plant, for instance. And so we see that a lot where they do. I've seen similar things about that. You build it in the worst possible spots where it's going to affect the most people. That seems to be on purpose. Was there anything else you want to throw out there?
No, I just wanted to throw a couple of those points out there. Thanks for what you do. And even if somebody disagrees with something, somebody comments on the chat or the text, at least we can have a conversation about it.
Yep.
Be civil. We're all in this together, you know.
Yeah, and I get a lot. I've been at this for a long time. And so the industry has given me 6 gag orders. And so I've gotten used to just getting rid of the troll industry. But I don't mind if it was legitimate people. I don't mind. It's just we know that I'm not suggesting anything about you, obviously, but this is what I'm like I am. I'm a bit more cautious because I've been slandered and vilified and demonized and smeared to the point where it doesn't bother me anymore, actually, right? So, okay, my friend, God bless. Thank you.
God bless.
Yeah, God bless. Take care. And then I'm going to always turn that off or on. So you can call in 709-589-4406. And we got another text message, I think, coming in. We'll jump back in news. So we're kind of covering Fukushima and the Wuhan coronavirus. And my heart goes out to the people of Wuhan, by the way. And yeah, some comments I'm not sure what to make of them. I'll look into it for sure. Let's get rid of that bouncing bar up there. Let's keep going. and we got another comment. That sounds 4 people arrested after posting fake news about a coronavirus. What they had posted was news from media. And like, you expect that. That's what social media is. People, and that was Australia again, wondering about the bottom of the ocean is sinking, the sand is receded, not eroded, and that freaks them out. And so I'm not sure some comments how to respond to it. I need to do research before I can respond to it, right? But you see people being arrested for talking about the subject. They're saying, I think somebody might have got sick. So this is extreme to go arrest people for thinking. This is not something we've seen ever before for any other circumstance. And certainly not for epidemics and pandemics, right? Where just complete panic that anybody would have a conversation. This is a very, very, very scary precedence to see stuff like this happening. This is what social network is all about, isn't it? To have a conversation, right? That's actually what we do with social network is we put that out there and wonder. South Korea coronavirus cases jumped by half. Now, so that's a pretty heavy headline, right? And then they show you them decontaminating a plane or a bus. I imagine that's a plane. Yeah, I think that's a plane. South Korea, 15 new confirmed cases, actually 20. The numbers increased later today. So which means it's going to expand even further, what that means. See? When you see a jump of those numbers, that's really... Okay, let me just go through the comment section real quick. Yeah, we love China. The majority of China is extremely good people. Every country is going to have their bad people. Hi, everybody. So Fukushima nuclear meltdowns and this coronavirus are 2 serious events on our planet. And so I usually do mostly nuclear, and I do marine research, like I showed earlier. What you're seeing is just a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percent of the conversation, right? But it gives you an idea that I'm a very active person. And then the equipment I use is meant to last me for a long time, and professional equipment, so I can throw anything at it and it won't freeze up and spoil it. And when you're wearing headphones, your hair is going to get messed up. Not that my hair is worth looking at. I got most of it pulled out anyway from just craziness. Yeah, lots of people miss Lane. Lane used to moderate for us, but she done that for many years. She sacrificed so much, and she's got to have a life too, right? Hi, everybody. And just double check in the comments section. You can call in. We're going to keep moving into the news stories, try to get through the rest of them. And you can call in 709-589-4406. You can also text me at that number. And I'm just checking the chat room to see if I can pick up any comments that I can answer. I generally don't like links posted in the chat room. And the reason being, because there's a lot of nefarious industries that have attacked me for years, and they'll link to a story which is a non-story, or maybe it's a story, but it's a special site where it harvests your IP address, and it could even be worse where they steal your personal ID. And so I like to protect people that are following my conversation, because it's a very select group of people that will only, not many people are interested in the deep darkness of these conversations. And so they're very precious people, and I feel that the industry would and has in the past done that, by the way. where they linked to nefarious sites that I went and checked the sites, and these were rogue sites. And so I'm very careful about people linking. I don't really like it at all. I like to check out the sources. So if people link there and I find it, I'll generally remove it, but I will check out the source myself before I do that. But I generally remove it because you can't trust the system. And I have been under siege for many years. But I'm not a bad person. I'm here trying to have a legitimate look at this topic, and I go into great details with my research. 709-589-4406 if you want to call in. Senator Ted Cruz says you can't trust China. Based on what they are telling us, it's bad, but I think there's very real possibility it's substantially worse. And so, yes, it is. They'd locked down 760 million people. I think that quantifies that statement, yes? Yeah, and somebody put that in the comments section earlier about there was military games going on around Wuhan in Hubei province, where the epicenter is too right now. The entire province is locked down, and people are locked in their homes. When was the last time you were locked in your homes? Because that's why I'm saying we had to go down. Instead of continuing nuclear, and I will, I'm going to actually start doing half and half shows, unless this gets worse. But this is a very important story, and we're not going to take a chance because there's too many questions. It's a very dangerous precedence being set every day. So what about the 110 countries that partook in the military games in Wuhan? And Wuhan is the epicenter. A couple of weeks before the outbreak. Yeah, and so if this was there's good opportunity for a country to attack China, right? So if they go to the fish market close to the level 4 labs and release the virus, and then they end up having to lock down the city, it's very difficult to get an answer, see? So even the Chinese government doesn't know if it came from their lab. And you can be sure that other countries were playing around with the SARS and the MERS viruses and had weaponized it. And that's why we see media refusing to acknowledge that that's a possibility. It's devastating Chinese tourism. Well, first off, they got 60 million confirmed, according to the New York Times and other people. 760 million locked down. That's just going to get bigger and bigger. The whole country is locked down. And then you see Hong Kong has severed the borders. And anybody crossing Beijing or Hong Kong's border has to go into quarantine for 2 weeks. But we know that the study shows 2 weeks is not enough. 24 days is a possibility before it's manifested. Coronavirus after Facebook, Intel cancels Labs Days event in San Francisco. So on the west coast of North America, you've seen events being canceled because of this virus. This is not something we have ever seen before. That's something. And so question, do you think they will try and use this to institute a global debt jubilee? All governments have huge deficits. They can use this as an excuse to welch on their debts, which is what they're actually doing, right? No, I don't think they would do it just for debt. I don't know. Maybe they would. You're asking me, right? I don't think, because you can destroy your country with this. And so that's not a very good way to welch on your debt. You just go bankrupt, right? And you devalue your currency. Yeah, and so the 110 countries that were in the military games, there's a lot of participants, right? And they can carry it. So if the military gets it, I couldn't care less. No offense to the military, but you're genocidal maniacs. That's what you do for a living. If a person can obtain pure oxygen now, oxygen therapy is important. Yeah, and so you can build small hyperbaric chambers where you, instead of just breathing oxygen, but you don't want to have anything inside these plastic chambers that is flammable, because if you're breathing pure oxygen, which I used to do for decompression after, at 14,000 hours underwater as a commercial diver. And in the old days, they used to decompress with pure oxygen, but divers would blow up from the static electricity from their underwear, right? While they were doing decompressions. Dana, I have a screen capture that shows there are, in fact, 3 strains of the... Yeah, right, and we've seen a mutation of this in one family. 3 strains of this particular Wuhan virus. Seems to me again to point to the fact that the coronavirus-19 is weaponized. Why 3 strains of the same virus? Well, we do know it mutates, but this is an RNA-based virus, which seems to me to be much easier for it to attach to the human or animal genomes. And right, and we got a study showing that it's 20 times more easier than SARS and MERS when it attaches. So it's a much more dangerous virus long term. And if it gets, this is why we're seeing such an incredible reaction in other animals, elements to make DNA. Yeah, and so this has attributes that we're definitely not familiar with, but you would, if you were trying to weaponize it, this is some of the criteria you would be going for, because it's easy to achieve stuff like that, right? And so it's very, and we expect them to do something like that. That's just, there's so much evil on the planet. Great conversations, great questions tonight. Thank you, everyone. Intel cancels Lab Day event. And you can call in to the show, 604. I keep doing the 604 because I spent 3 decades on the West Coast. 709 and 589, that doesn't mean I'm not heading back there, but 709, 589, we're coming down here to do research on this coast, and just a lot of problems, a lot of difficulties. It always takes an absurd amount of effort to get these operations, these research expeditions. So we're going to try again in the spring. And I might actually... 709-589-4406. I'm not going to give it away yet anyway. But we're planning on doing more marine research expeditions. Since I've been here, we discovered there was no birds in the freshwater lakes, and no migratory birds worth talking about. We've seen the fish, the squid, the capelin, which are like little tiny trout, but they're not. But they're around that size, right? And then codfish are undersized, are very undersized. Let's try another call. Oregon, hi there. I'm going to go live with you. Is that okay? Okay, hang on. Here we go. Okay, you're live.
All right, turning my volume down so I don't get back here. Hey man, just a big fan. I've been watching you for a real long time. I've learned an awful lot about you, about Fukushima.
Yeah,
and
you bet. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just...
it takes about 30 seconds for it to show up on your screen, right? There's a lag of about 30 seconds from the call in till you'll see it. Go ahead.
No worries. No worries. Anyway, I'm glad you've picked up the fight here anyway, without forgetting about Fukushima. But regarding the coronavirus, I guess one of the questions I have that just bothers me is Russia's recent decision, I think as of tomorrow, not allow anyone from China to enter their country. And
Go ahead.
yeah, I wondered what your thoughts on that were. Why you think, or what you think about that?
Well, they have a big border, like 2,500 miles, right?
Right.
And then they have a dysfunctional medical system, and they also have large populations. They have the perfect weather all year long to keep this virus alive year long. And so there's a whole lot of facets to that. Was there anything else? I'll answer that after. Was there anything else on that you wanted to look at? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I guess beyond the technical part of it, I'm just wondering whether you see anything like maybe a duality of reasons. I'm just wondering whether Putin may know
He's a germophobia too, right?
than just being cautious about it infecting his people.
Oh yeah, no, they would have took the virus a long time ago, like the SARS and the MERS, and they would have weaponized it. So they would have every right to be fearful of it because they would understand how actually. And so when you see 750 million people locked down, it's definitely like Taiwan and like Beijing. They have tried to isolate themselves because they're neighbors also, right? And so many countries that are neighbors have, including Britain, has announced within another few days, they're right across the board, no Chinese will be allowed into the country without going into quarantine for extended periods. Was there anything else?
No, that's it, Dana.
Okay.
I was aware of Britain doing the same thing as Russia, but
Yep.
I find the whole thing very unusual.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Make that decision to for an entire race of people, over 1 billion people. Anyway,
Okay.
thanks again, my friend, for everything you do.
Yeah, I'll try to answer that where we're offline here. Okay, my friend. God bless. Take care now.
Just send you some money on PayPal.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care now. Okay. And so Russia, of course, weaponizes everything. Diarrhea, you name it. And because they see it as weapons, right? And so when they close 2,500 miles of border, plus their country is such a cold country, they can have this flu propagate, which is a perfect environment for it, for extended periods, right? And snow won't kill the virus, for instance, you know? And so this is a very dangerous, weaponized. My take is it's a weaponized virus, and Russia could have done it, or it could be any country on the planet that could have actually done it, and then it just takes somebody in the laboratory that is corrupt and get pay off and release it. Okay, so we got a couple of text messages to get through. They raised it to 780 million 2 days ago. Says Joe. Hi, Joe. And Joe, if you're going to send me videos, send them to this number. But I generally don't use my phone for internet because I'm targeted worldwide, right? This seems also to be a control mechanism to enslave a large segment of the population. Right, and so there's reason to be worried about stuff like that because there's certain governments out there would love to kill off most of the planet. They do a great job for fighting the good fight and giving us so much truth. Thank you, by the way, and important information on all your interests. Yeah, and what I do, by the way, is an unbelievable amount of work all the time, which is fine, right? I'm not complaining. I'm just saying. And then I share it in an educational format, and I've went through a lot of work to do something like that. And I thought about this a long time ago that I needed certain equipment. So it's taken me many years to build the operation. I'm still building it, right? But when you look at stuff like TriCasters and the talk show these were important equipment. That the talk show for the scrape machine, well, I guess I better get to work on that again. Just brutalized with work, and I never give up. The big camera took me almost 2 years before I got it to work, and it works every day now, but I have to struggle constantly with equipment. Let's keep rolling through the news here, because we're still doing good. Chinese CDC study finds coronavirus 19 virus to be more contagious than SARS and MERS, which were two other coronavirus illnesses. Yeah, I don't download on my cell phone for anybody. Thank you anyway, but I won't download anything onto my cell phone. Nothing. I generally won't use it on the internet ever. Because it's my phone numbers, my phone, that particular phone is for the drones and the underwater cameras, the underwater remote control vehicle and stuff like that, 4K to operate that kind of and also for gimbals and stuff like that. And because I'm hunted by the nuclear industry for many years, once again, I have 6 current gag orders against me. So it's no offense to anybody, but I will not download any pictures allegedly or anything like that. I appreciate people. I'm not rejecting people. I'm just saying I won't download anything onto my cell phone. Yeah. Problem, reaction, disaster. Problem, reaction, solution, disaster, capitalism. Well, and then we've seen examples where they say never waste a crisis. They can use a crisis to bring in laws that could never be passed under normal circumstances, but people will acquiesce to them under adverse conditions, right? Chinese study finds the coronavirus to be more contagious. And, sorry, let me go back. If I double click it, then it plays like a video on my end, and I can't click to the next one, so don't worry about it. It's all big. Coronavirus cases climbs to 621 on a cruise liner. It's a big petri dish. And, you know, Japan, of course, this is what this one is about. Japan has this incredible legacy of destroying its own people with radiation from Fukushima's ongoing nuclear meltdown. It's a very detailed. If you go to my home page, I put up a video a while back. This on my the home video for my page, and it's about Fukushima, all the basics of the nuclear meltdown. And that quantifies that statement anyway, and it'll educate you on Japan's nuclear meltdowns, which you need to know about. Like if you're sick, you don't want to be eating food from Japan. Japan has produced an absurd amount of radioactive food. They raised the limits worldwide to help accommodate Japan after the nuclear meltdowns. There is no safe limits, right? Just a single atom sequestered in your muscles, your organs, and your bones to manifest into up to 1,800 illnesses and diseases, autoimmune deficiencies, and injuries. Latent injuries. So you're not going to get sick right away from eating the food, depending on what you're eating, of course, because you can. You can get leukemia because you're producing incredible amounts of white blood cells when the radiation sequesters. Same thing, by the way, is going to happen with a heavy flu, where you're going to be producing all these white blood cells. And what that does is you're displacing the red blood cells in your body. The red blood cells are carrying oxygen and nutrition throughout your body. And so the only way white blood cells, which are made in all your joints and your spleen and everything, the only way they can exist is they have to displace your oxygen, nutrition, red blood cells. And so it leaves you now susceptible to pathogens and viruses, which would normally be innocuous and benign and harmless, right? Coronavirus cases climbed 621 on the passengers. Cops nab Cebu optometrist for spreading fake news. So they got I noticed that they do that a lot with professionals. In order to shut the other professionals up, they'll arrest them, and this was in Bangladesh, I think. Yeah, I think it's in Bangladesh. They arrested them for spreading fake news on a flu. Do you get it? So this is, like, there's a lot of governments who are in the know. And so when they're arresting people for talking about a flu or speculating, that's what you do on social media. You say, I'm worried about this. This scares me. We're seeing, and they're not able to articulate it. And I'm not trying to say that I'm super smart or nothing. I'm just saying I'm really good at articulating stuff. But I put the work in long before you see it. I go through an incredible amount of research, and I provide the documentation for the most part for all of my assertions, right, for many years. And this is why I needed certain equipment to be able to handle it. And so the focus for me is always to gather up the equipment, and eventually it'll come together, right? I'm still quite a ways away from accomplishing my goal, but we're getting there, right? In the meantime, I never stop. I'm literally a perpetual motion machine when it comes to stuff like this. I actually never stop. I'm sorry, not Bangladesh, but Philippines. There is another one about this from Bangladesh coming up. Philippines National Police spokesperson had identified the author of a Facebook post who claimed that a patient died at the university medical center. Fake! Anti-cybercrime group 7 conducted fact-checking on the matter and discovered the information posted was simply not true. The suspect was nabbed by authorities. Literally, like you're trying to, like, why would you frame that narrative, that conversation that way, I wonder? To intimidate the rest of the people, not to talk about it. Vowed to continue to hunt individuals who will spread misinformation regarding the flu. The police organization also called on the public to not post unverified information on social media to avoid panic and confusion about the flu, which could be weaponized, or it could be real, or it could be from space, who knows? And if a flu can come from space, then it can circle the globe via the jet stream, can't it? Japan edges even closer to I call it the New Year's Eve 2019 coronavirus disease. Because why did he call it 2019? Because it was New Year's Eve that they found it. Why not just say, oh, well, a few hours later it was 2020, might as well call it 2020. No, they wanted to retroactively go back for some reason. It was important to them. And this was the World Health Organization changed the name. It's important to change the name, but it's more important to get rid of the World Health Organization and create one that actually does the job. Because they're full of the industries, lapdogs and cheerleaders and bootlickers. And 33 of the 59 cases infection occurred outside of China, meaning the virus is being spread person to person in Japan, or airborne like a sneeze. They look at the despair on the faces of the coronavirus task force. Despair. These little connotations are extremely telling, right? Prominent events in Japan. We got another text message there, I forgot. Prominent events in Japan. This was Joe again. Also, 8 more confirmed cases in New York. A gag order for all police, right? I read that one. Firemen, I'm probably going to cover that tomorrow. And media, it might even be here in the lineup for tonight, who knows, was put in place. They are quarantined at one hospital, but I can't recall the name. That's right. Thanks, Joe. The Tokyo Marathon has also been closed to all registrants. So Japan's largest camera trace show was cancelled. The marathon was cancelled. for the only the Olympic hopefuls. They'll refund all. There will be no refund of the registration fees. I think they're like $2,000 with 40,000 people running. Other events like tech conferences are paused, and Japan's booming tourist industry has been walloped by a travel ban from the Chinese government imposed on its citizens. So Japan is looking like the next pandemic, right? Epidemic, anyway. Especially we're seeing now, right, all the signs that manifesting. After Japanese health minister advised people to avoid public places, think about that statement. In Japan, they want people to avoid public places. It looks like Japan is about to get, I hope I'm wrong, but it looks like Japan might end up being the next epidemic. Once this gets loose in another country, it's game over. We're all going to see it then. And we've seen headlines where they talk about billions of people, right? About the International Organizing Committee, the IOC, and I think they're incredibly scumbags. We've covered them now for many years. They're incredible, deceitful, and dishonest and disingenuous scumbags. And the government of Japan insists the Olympics will go on as scheduled, despite the threat of the coronavirus. Japan wants the Olympics because they're calling it the Recovery Olympics. And the idea is to pretend that the nuclear meltdowns are resolved. Of course, as history shows, you can't resolve a nuclear meltdown. That goes on for infinity. Way past the human experience, that is still going to go on. Chernobyl is still melting down into the earth. And you think about Chernobyl, they want you to think of a 30-kilometer exclusion zone, right? They actually closed 9,000 farms in Ireland, Scotland, and UK after Chernobyl. Over 400 are still closed today. They should never open them. The other ones, 9,000 farms closed because of Chernobyl, 3,000 miles away. And these have similar attributes like radiation fallout and viruses like this. Except radiation is lethal for eternity. You can suck it in a million years and get sick from it. Japanese Navy ships were turned away from Micronesia and the Marshall Islands because of fears of the disease. Japanese Navy ships were turned away. So we're seeing now people are fearing Japan because of the virus, which means that it's most likely now, they're covering up, but it's most likely now out of control in that country. And we've covered quite a few stories on Japan recently, I noticed, about this particular facet. Japan is now regarded as an infected country. There might be a lot of people who think the idea is crazy, that they're not in the know. But it's now the reality. Japan is being treated just like the cruise ships turned away from Hong Kong, Thailand, and Cambodia. And if we don't do something about the situation, the Tokyo Olympics will surely be impacted. I cannot imagine the Olympics happening. It's just a game. Who cares? Are we really going to threaten large populations over a stupid game? Mutated coronavirus found on a patient in Wenzhou. Actually, it turned out not to be, apparently. But it did. We did see mutated versions in a family that had mutated 2 times in just one family, their children and the parents. The claim is not anyway, so. Government to go tough against people spreading rumors. Hi, Joe. There was 239 joint. Joe suffers from gigantism from radiation poisoning in Rocky Flats. It's been around a long time. This was a question on nuclear. Am I correct in assuming that the majority of nuclear reactors currently in operation are 40 to 50 years old? That's right. And kind of past the expiration date, which was actually 30 years. It's because of the Wigner effect from gamma shines, X-rays, and neutron bursts. Breaks down the integrity of metal and steel and cement and everything else. and allows cracks to form, which means you can have incredible issues. Plus, they don't have any way of containing the radiation. And so the pools that they're putting the reactor cores in for decades to get them to cool down, which, by the way, are boiling off into your communities, absurd amount of radiation, 120,000 liters roughly per pool every day. That is absurd numbers of atoms that are pulsing. For safety factors, but still remain. Right, they should have shut down the majority of reactors. Like, so after Chernobyl, that destroyed the renaissance for a long time in nuclear. 3 Mile Island was similar, where that was the end of the nuclear renaissance for America. And then Sellafield was the end of the nuclear renaissance for United Kingdom. The nuclear meltdown, the mixed oxide fuel meltdown at Sellafield, right, in the 50s. That really destroyed. Those three events in particular are still not resolved, right? All these years, decades later. So nuclear is not, if nuclear was actually looked at, it would never exist. If people were being told the truth, it could never exist. The planet wouldn't put up with it. The whole world has been living in an illusion now for many decades. It's coming back to haunt them in a very bad way. Government to go tough against people spreading rumors. No rumors around coronavirus will be tolerated. No rumors. No opinions, no conjectures will be tolerated. Being over-enthusiastic, many people are sharing fake news reports and posts in regards on social media sites. That's just how it works. People ask the question, is this true? The people who wrote the article, people who are trying to create the laws, have done the exact same things on social media. Is this true? Is that true? And so this is desperation when you see those connotations. That's incredible desperation. Stop calling it the Wuhan coronavirus. Well, you stigmatize the community, right? My heart goes out to that whole country because extraordinary rendition going on there, and where they snatch people and bring them to jails disguised as hospitals. And then they're got $43 billion to spray the whole country. And it's just absurd what we're seeing. While identifying a new disease by its place of origin seems intuitive, history demonstrates it stigmatizes the community, blah, 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 blah. So it's a very bad thing. And so coming up with a technical name is good, but most people, people don't just blame Wuhan. They're worried about Wuhan. This is just to prop up the World Health Organization. Coronavirus, film director and family die in self-quarantine. So 4 of them, his parents and his sister and himself now, a film director. He works as a film director. All 4 of them have died because of quarantine in their homes. Deaths prompted criticism of the government's initial advice that patients should self-isolate at home rather than overburden the city's hospitals. Hospitals are not ready for it, and they're factories, they're big petri dishes too, right? For the illness. And being home, as we've covered some of these stories where people would rather die at home than in these forsaken places known as hospitals, unfortunately. And we see just several thousand hospital employees got coronavirus. 6 we know that have died, and several doctors that have died. Officials have been accused to cover up and downplay the outbreak, reprimanding doctors who tried to warn the public. Yeah, and so the government has exasperated the illness by downplaying it. Swiss postpones global patient safety summit amid the coronavirus outbreak. Well, that was a different. It's because numerous participants must remain in their own countries to deal with the epidemic Well, if you're going to remain in your own country, it's not an epidemic no more. Now it's a pandemic, right? This is what a pandemic is. Yeah, there was 20,000 people from dozens of countries were in Wuhan. We covered that earlier in the show. But we don't know. There's always events like that going on. And that doesn't mean that this wasn't the one that was the catalyst. We don't know, right? But we can't disregard anything. So everything's possible is what I'm saying. Because we don't have the answers per se, but we've been taking tallies and paying attention, and we are seeing a lot of things that would suggest this is a weaponized virus, including China agreeing with those assertions and senators. Experts say the cruise ship quarantine was unjustified and violated human rights, and letting the coronavirus literally pick them off one by one. That's reference to Japan segregating, quarantining everybody on the ship. When Japan wasn't the only one to do it, to be fair. From Delaware, 40 mobile incinerators the size of ship containers that will reach temperatures of 850 degrees were just sent to the epicenter to help dispose of solid waste, possibly bodies also. Yeah, because they're creating a lot of waste at the hospitals and the prisons that looks like hospitals. And we know that there's around 50, thanks for that comment, so there's an extra, there's reports now of 40 more crematorium type operations used to dispose of hospital waste and other stuff, because fish is also capable of transmitting this. But we have a lot to suggest that there's several thousand people dying a day, and this is why they locked down the country, so that people wouldn't be able to videotape it and share it or be aware of it, right? There was also a rumor that the virus was stolen from Canada. Geez, we got a lot of great comments tonight, didn't we? And so this could come from Canada. Canada has a lot of these laboratories but that's why bother bringing it all the way from Canada? Why not just release it in Canada, right? It doesn't make, I'm not saying it didn't now happen. I'm just saying it doesn't make sense to smuggle it from Canada there when you have their own weapons for laboratory. They're weaponized what I call a weaponized laboratory. It doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Who knows? Why go through that trouble? Because that's very risky, especially in the time of Homeland Security, right? So it's a very risky time to try to. It's not impossible either. See, so tonight we covered a lot of these other stories that normally don't get covered. So that's great stuff. We're in the middle of a war. This is Irish coronavirus general. We're in the middle of a war with this virus. The Chinese have been just fighting this on the front line, tooth and nail, going toe-to-toe with the virus for the past 10 weeks, yeah? Fighting monsters, literally. And the death toll and the illness it's very disturbing when you see footage of this. If you're working on the front line, the post-traumatic stress disorder. Wall Street hit records high on signs. Again, we were postulating this for several days, that they're dropping the numbers of infected on purpose, because we've seen them do it already. The World Health Organization, for the first 7 days, dropped the numbers. And he kept saying, oh, well, we don't know. The numbers could go up anytime at all. Way down in the story. That's just like to protect themselves. And then stocks magically went up because, as I showed you at the beginning of the show, around 25th of January, $500 billion or pounds sterlings, which is like almost $750 billion USD, was sucked out of the stock, right? Was lost. What they call lost, right? and because devalued the stocks, right? And then we've seen other, I've covered this now since January the 25th, like hardcore. We go through media all day, all night, every waking moment. On a cycle, we're going through the 1 hour cycle, grabbing everything pertinent, all the studies, all the information that's showing up. And so now we see Wall Street just hit record high again. So you can expect the numbers, they artificially deflate the numbers, then they increase the numbers, and then each day they say, oh, the numbers are dropping. And then the stocks, who don't know any better, start going up. They cash in, right? And then the stocks, then everything repeats the cycle. This is what we're seeing happening. They're artificially deflating and inflating the stock market in order to attempt to recoup their money and to make money, which is a phenomenon we've seen after the SARS epidemic, right? China reported 1,749 confirmed new cases coronavirus. And you can call into the show. 709-589-4406. 589-4406. You can text me at that number, and we can read your text and have a conversation about it. I don't generally rule anything out. I just don't like, I typically won't inject it into the narrative unless I can back it up, or I think it's so important that I better at least, have an opinion type on it. But I generally reserve myself to just what I can prove only. China expels Wall Street Journal reporter over coronavirus editorial, which is, again, we see them arresting journalists and prison activists, and any dissent is stomped upon and set on fire and thrown off a cliff, basically. China on Wednesday withdrew the press credentials for Wall Street Journal reporters. There is no such thing as a reporter. This is what we discovered with the nuclear over many years, is they're just disgusting public relation firms. They're not actually probably is there, but I just haven't found them. But a forensic investigative journalist is what I do. Especially when it comes to nuclear, I go through an absurd amount. In fact, like last year, 2019, I done 2 presentations on my channel here about Chernobyl, for instance, and around 700 academic studies that you've never seen or heard of before in relationship to Chernobyl. But I've done the exact same thing for the Mayak meltdown in Russia, for 3 Mile Island. I've done the same thing where I produced hundreds of academic studies never shared publicly before. And I have 60,000+ academic studies on radiation that I've gathered up on pertinent subjects to do forensic investigative journalism on it, right? And I share that. That's available on my site, 2019. I'd actually done all the anniversaries of major nuclear events, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, you name it. I covered it last year with academic studies. China on Wednesday withdrew the press credentials of Wall Street apologists. The op-ed headline, China is the real sick man of Asia, criticizes Beijing's handling of the coronavirus crisis. Well, they arrested 8 doctors and reprimanded them, I should say, but they called them in and told them, sign this piece of paper saying you're spreading fake news. Petrol pumps, your gas pumps, pump handles, could be a prime source of viral bugs like the coronavirus, and motorists are warned. Not that the motorists are saying it, they're being warned that when you pump gas, you should sanitize your hands, or you should use a paper towel or something like that as a barrier. Because you can live on that and it can grow on that, right? This is what we mean by a petri dish. You start the virus off and the whole dish becomes the virus, right? It grows, and it does the same thing on objects like that. We know it can last 9 days in recent studies, so we'll stick with that number. National Geographic had said that viruses like the SARS-CoV and corona viruses can last up to 2 months on objects in the right conditions. Motorists are being urged to disinfect their hands after using petrol pumps due to the risk of contracting viruses that could be lurking on the handles. Indeed. PlayStation backs out of the PAX East due to coronavirus concern, which is a big video gaming conference in the United States. So we're seeing this happening where big corporations are like, yeah, we're going to sit this out and that out and them out and those out. Team feels backing out is the safest option as the situation is changing daily. Penny Arcade had said. How did 542 people get infected, which is 612 now, with coronavirus 19 on a quarantine cruise ship? Well, they're all breathing the same air. This is a Canadian story. BC was fully recovered, which doesn't mean anything. Lots of people fully recover from illnesses, provincial health, but what does mean something is they showed you this picture. That's not the hospital. That's in Wuhan. You get it? This is brainwashing is what you're looking at anyway. Coronavirus outbreak. London could host the 2020 Olympics because of the coronavirus outbreaks. And so if anybody's going to call in, now's the time to do it. We're almost through the show. 709-589-4406. Or text me if you want. I don't download anything on my phone, not even from family, because they could just get they can get a message and then they send it to me with something to download. I'm not going to do it, right? I know better than to do it. 99.9% of the people are genuine, but I got to worry about that 0.1%, right? London could host the 2020 Olympics. Japan needs the Olympics to fake the cover-up of the nuclear meltdowns. But Japan now, looks like Japan is going to be the next epidemic in the next week. And so this whole story, coronavirus story, is just taken off. This is far from plateauing. This is far from resolve. This is far from cures or vaccines or anything else. This is just starting. We are just in the very beginning stage. And the panic worldwide is palpable. London could easily end up hosting this year's Olympic Games if they're forced to move due to the ongoing... Well, London can be the same thing. London can be infected in the next week too. Given the ongoing disruption caused by the coronavirus outbreaks, they urge the Olympic Committee to consider how London could stand ready. And London is probably the worst spot to have it. No offense to people in London, but it's a bad spot to have it. Just not have it at all, see? Who gives a shit about stupid games? Let's start worrying about our planet. One respected Japanese virologist said that if the Olympics Games were held tomorrow, they would be cancelled in Japan. So if Japan was to have the Olympics tomorrow, they would have to cancel it because of the coronavirus. That tells me everything I need to know. They ain't going to be having no Olympics. They got to keep the lie alive because there's a lot of money to be made between now and then, right? Iran State News Agency says 2 citizens in Iran have died from coronavirus. So if this gets loosed in another country, Japan or Iran or any country, I think we're in real trouble. See, and I say that because China, as everybody knows for a long time, is an extremely repressive dictatorship. They're one party, the Chinese Communist Party, is a very repressive regime, right? They're dictators like Saddam Hussein, only many times worse. And the police there are thugs. They're just completely out of control. And so that kind of environment can do the things they're doing, but most countries can't go to those extremes, right? Coronavirus quarantine on the Diamond Princess cruise ship was chaotic the Japanese experts have claimed. Everybody could have the virus, he says, on that cruise ship. Cruise ship was completely inadequate in terms of infection control, and 3,700 people could be infected. That's what the experts is saying. The 621 tested positive so far, but there's a 24-day latency. And so every time I've seen his video, I'm sure he's one of the very few honest people I've come across in years of doing research. He's very candid with everything he's saying. He's very realistic. He's not going to go near his family for the next number of weeks. He was terrified on the ship. The ship, he literally quantifies the statement that it's a big petri dish, right? A big lab dish. Residential lockdowns cover half of China's population, which is 1/10 of the planet. Half of China's population is locked down. According to a report in the New York Times, 760 million people are locked down. And that's not according to it, that's fact. China, that's what I mean by China is one of the few places that can do something like that. And the police are brutal enough and liking it. They're actually, the police are the ones that are, you see those police abuse videos about this showing up in our, at China has its own internet, right? But if you look at the videos, you can see other police going around with their cameras. Those videos are showing up online, see? Thousands of volunteers and Communist Party workers. So restrictions are enforced by thousands. Now, I covered that over the last number of days, right? Not just last show before. And a comedian snuck out of Cambodia and got on a plane and flew in America. So your cough spreads 200 feet, and you can have a pandemic just from something like that. Because it could take 24 days for it to manifest and diagnose. And a sneeze can travel 200 feet. Therefore, it's airborne, right? Not maybe, not if, not perhaps, not almost, but it's airborne. Well, that's it. That's all we can do tonight. I thought the call-in show went really good. And you expect some flaws, right? Because we're just starting out doing that. We'll keep doing it. I'm going to have to work and get the Skype machine up and working. Because we struggle with that. I struggled with the company. We struggled. This is supposed to, and it did before, but I couldn't get anybody to answer my emails. So I moved past all of that. We reformatted everything. We're ready to go again. I'm just a normal everyday person. And so I have an absurd amount of work every day in front of me. And this is an important story we have to cover. We're still trying to raise enough money to buy more equipment. I doubt that'll ever stop. Right now we're targeting the audio, because you might not understand it, but there is issues I have to struggle with every day, and I'm just tired of it. So we're still trying to raise money for that, and thank you to everybody that has contributed. Just need to raise another 100, 150. I should be able to resolve that permanently, hopefully. But once again, it's very technical equipment that I work with, and it's meant to bring this kind of format, incredible high quality and very crisp, and no latency, no lags, no smurf ups. I can throw anything at my equipment. It can handle four. My camera's probably that big, right? They can handle 4 of them without a hitch. Not that I got 4 of them, but it can. That's what I mean. The equipment is meant to sustain this for a very long time. I have no intentions of going away. I'm planning on educating the population for a long time to come. And the best way to do it is with the same equipment they're using, right? Unfortunately, there's a lot of technical stuff that goes with that, and all the work I got and the technical stuff I do anyway, very demanding. God bless everybody. Hugs for everybody. Thank you, everybody. Links are below at the very bottom of the description if you do want to donate. We've been doing it for many years. There's never been a bad experience for anybody. It's simple. If you don't have a credit card or a PayPal, one of your friends do, give them the money and ask them to do the donate. It's legitimate. You'll never have an issue. And we've been at this for many, many, many years. And so it works. It's legitimate sources. It's the best sources I can get out there that are 100% flawless for your experience. God bless everybody. Hugs for everybody. Thank you, everybody. We'll see everybody on the next presentation. We're going to do another call-in, because I do believe that that's just going to get more important as time goes on with this conversation, with this event, I should say, and that I think people need a spotlight this where they're not going to be treated with or disrespected or disenfranchised. We're going to embrace the conversations, and hopefully that helps this world to move forward. God bless and hugs for everybody. We'll see everybody soon. Thank you for joining in. Take care. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up. God bless. Take care, everybody.